because Galway will rejoice like never before. Galway are the All-Ireland champions. They have now in Galway got new heroes.
Christy O'Connor, Galway 119, Wexford 119 at Wexford Park. Makes sense of the chaos for us.
Yeah, I'd say there's some analysis of the chaos in the Galway backroom team this week, with from the video analysis perspective. But look at Cian, absolutely sickening results, really. Like when you consider where they were, you know, the control they had in the game. Like even there, like was it they 7 wides in the first 15 minutes, like you know, was it 10 wides in the first 22 minutes? Like, you know, Wexford had their first wide in the 19th minute? Like, you know, I know you're not going to nail every you know, chance you get, and the wind in Wexford Park can be very deceptive. Like, but like, you know, that's just crazy numbers. You know, and even I suppose I'd say a lot of regrets as well, maybe with the way I'd say maybe tried to even run down the clock a bit. You know, the way even they used the bench later on. Seemed to kind of backfire a bit, because they did take off some kind of, you know, I suppose bigger names. So yeah, like look at, and you know yourself, Cian, like, you know, when you get a chance to win an away game, like it's such a precious 2 points. You know, they still got a point out of it, but like, you know, when you go to Wexford Park and you have it on a plate and you can't take it, you know, very, very frustrating. I think it just underlines as well, from a goal perspective, without being too critical, like that lack of consistency that has been there since 2018, you know, is still there. Like, and you would say, for example, you look at, you know, we'll say the spine of that Limerick team, right, and how well, you know, their main guys play every day, like Hannon, Cian Lynch, you know, Gillan, Tom Morrissey, you know, Will O'Donoghue, like every day, like these boys are turning up and absolutely getting it done. Like, whereas, you know, I said, without being critical, like Dahi Burke, Whelan, that consistency in the spine of that Galway team has just not been good enough. And, you know, I think the other big concern for them as well, when you look at teams like Limerick, not so much so, but, you know, Limerick are just a totally different team anyway, but like so Waterford, Cork, like, you know, I know it doesn't really make a difference in the context of how your work rate, but there is a lack of pace in that Galway team, which is a concern as well. And I think that the depth in the squad is probably not as good as they'd like it to be. And maybe some of the younger players, in fairness, they're still very young, and it's going to take them a while yet to get up to the level that Galway needs them to be at, to be a real force in this championship.
Something you touched on there, Christy, the consistency aspect. And you think back to Michael O'Donoghue's time, and you were involved yourself, and at that time you knew that Galway were going to deliver a certain level of performance. Maybe on Saturday the performance mightn't have been bad. Maybe things like the accuracy and their shooting levels mightn't have been where they wanted to be. But to get that consistency, Christy, how hard is that at the highest level?
Yeah, look, I think it's been in the league as well. You know, like it hasn't just been like in the championship. I would say, like, okay, last year they finished the league really well and just, you know, went into the championship and like were terrible against Dublin, really, you know, just like not so much terrible, but blown over by Dublin, which, you know, in Croke Park, you know, you wouldn't expect. And, you know, even the round robin would say in 2019, you know, like the damage was really done in the first day out when, you know, they didn't put up a big enough score against Carlow, and they beat Carlow by 6 points. That's what effectively came back to haunt them. You know, they went out and scoring difference. Like had the game against Wexford in that 2019 qualifier in Pearse Stadium, I thought had it in the bag. You know, like they were 6 points up, could have been more up. Just didn't have that ruthless, you know, killer instinct to just put it away, which is surprising for a team with their experience. You know, went down to Nolan Park then, and, you know, beat Kilkenny, which was a great result, and then went up to Parnell Park, and, you know, not an easy place to go to, but like even in the latter years of Mihall's time, Cian, it was there. You know, you've a new management coming in then. You know, like I suppose they got to semi-final that year, and, you know, you could say that was a decent year considering, you know, everything else that was going on. Then last year bombed again. The league this year, even the performance against Wexford in Pearse Stadium, you know, they scored 15 points, poor performance. You know, I think a lot of it to do with consistency is confidence as well. You know, you look at Cork, for example, that they really tried very hard to get the consistency in the league this year, which they hadn't had for like nearly 20 years. Got it. But then you lose the league final. There's no question when you lose the league final in that manner, you concede 4 goals. It does affect confidence, and that I suppose that's probably that you're going into big championship matches then, and you're maybe not. You have the backup, but you're maybe starting to doubt yourself a bit more than what you need to. And you look at Limerick, for example, on Sunday. Poor league, like, but that absolute conviction and that absolute belief in what they're about and their system of play, is it's absolute fireproof. And we spoke about it last week as well, Cian, that Limerick have their game plan absolutely locked down. They know exactly what they're about. They know it inside out. Like, this is now, say, Galway's 3rd management team since 2019, since Micheál left. Micheál, Cian O'Connell, now Henry. New players coming in, maybe trying different stuff. So, you could even say that Liam Cahill, it's maybe this is his 3rd year now. Maybe he's had a full run at it. The players now are maybe at the physical profile and the physical condition level that he maybe feels they need to have to take on Limerick. So, all of this stuff feeds into consistency, Cian. And even I think the last 2 years as well has probably a team like Limerick that is well established, the same management. I think it's been easier in so many ways for them, because they're kind of adding layers of complexity to what they have already established. Whereas a lot of the other teams have tried to establish that platform and that, I suppose, game plan and that, style of play, which it can be hard when you've new managers coming in and new ideas and maybe new coaching setup. So, as I said, that's a long-winded answer to your question, but I think all of that stuff feeds into why Galway haven't been as consistent as they need to be.
Like the fact that you have matches, Christy, like last year Galway played 2 championship matches. This year they're going to play 2 in a week. They're playing Westmeath, of course, on Saturday, and Kilkenny coming the following Sunday then to Pearse Stadium. But I suppose my point and my question is, when you're developing a team, how relevant and important is it to get matches into guys that obviously you're guaranteed to get 5 championship matches in Leinster this year, but how crucial is that going forward for the long-term health of the Galway senior hurling team?
Yeah, it's massive. I suppose for some of the younger guys, like, it's, you're thrown into this round robin and it's absolutely relentless. It's unforgiving. Even the physical toll on their bodies. Like, a lot of these guys, you would see it with younger guys in a squad like that. Their unbelievable attitude, great application in the gym, phenomenal trainers, but their bodies do need a few years to kind of almost get up to that level, and to I suppose to adjust to the load that's required. Like, and that it's kind of a double-edged sword, really, Cian, that you can only learn by being thrown into the fire, but you risk, I suppose, burning some of these guys as well by overexposing them too early. And like, I'd say even with Galway on Saturday, like, they had a few younger guys, and like, you could see they struggled. So, but you have to persist with those players as well, because, like, if you're a manager and you invest that faith in those players, you can't just abandon it after 1 or 2 games. And I think that, I suppose, the one luxury that the teams in Leinster have, and this is said with absolute respect to every team in the competition, but, like, it's much less unforgiving in Munster, because, like, for example, you look at some of the tip players last week that played so well against Waterford. They're going in now, handle that pressure really, really well. They're going in now against Clare 7 days later, in effectively, like, the season is kind of on the line, really, and that's a whole different level of pressure. That you're going into you're playing Clare and Thurles. You kind of have to really win. Like Tip have to go to Limerick. They've Cork coming to Thurles. Like, if they don't win on Sunday, you'd probably say it's the season is nearly done now. So, like, all of that pressure comes on as well. So, like, you have young guys that I look at. A lot of these guys have played All Ireland under 20, All Ireland 21 finals, the Tip lads. I suppose some of the Galway lads have played in an All Ireland 20 final last year, but it's just that it's just another step up again. And that's where you look at likes of Limerick. They can Colm O'Connell, incredible player under 20, you know, they can bring him in when the game is kind of done and dusted. The last you saw last year, they were on Colin Coughlin the last few minutes of the All-Ireland final. He's still under 20, just to give him a taste of it. And yeah, I suppose with Galway, that a lot of these guys, we spoke about it last week here as well, Cian, that, you know, Galway's under 20, I suppose, the way they've performed under 20 level in the last few years has probably made it a little bit harder for these guys to step into the senior setup, because they're not coming in with the same, I suppose, success level as they had at minor. And it maybe even is harder again to adjust to that. You know, they've nothing else, only success at minor. And then they come up to under 20 and they're struggling to even win a game, or they go into an under 20 final last year and get, you know, well beaten by Cork. So yeah, look, at no clear cut answers there, Cian, but it's just, I suppose, look at it's becoming like the level of intensity now, like it is becoming. Even you saw Kieran Joyce on Sunday, like, you know, credible player, still under 20, had a brilliant league campaign. But like, you're going in then against like Gerard Hagerty, you know, complete an absolute, you know, machine of a player. Like you just can't make up that ground in 3 or 4 months. It's just not possible.
I suppose there's also if we look at that goal, the free at the end been given and turned over. That's probably the one controversial talk about. People are a lot out of it. I know Galway left it behind themselves in the score report, but like it was a massive changing point in the game.
Yeah, Colm, I think some of this stuff feeds into the whole home and away element of the round robin as well. But it's actually funny enough. I was looking at this the other day. Like the whole thing is definitely flipped, right? Now, you would say that hometown advantage was significant in that decision, because if you look at like Lee Chin, I know it was less relevant because it was the last play of the game when Chin had the free to level it. He actually took longer over that free than Conor Cooney had over the previous free. So, like, you know, there are studies, like, you know, especially in the Bundesliga, where there have been, you know, the stats will show like that even, you know, referees are more disposed to unintended bias from the crowd. Like there's even don't have the numbers on it, there's actually one stat whereby if you play in a stadium where there's a running track around it, there's less of a chance for the referee to give that decision to the home team than there is if the crowd are in on top of the pitch stuff. All of this stuff, like, you know, Wexford Park is Walsh Park, like these are you know, they're claustrophobic enough grounds. You know, so, you know, probably got on, the crowd were definitely getting on the referee's back, all of that stuff. But I do think as well, Colm, that if you look at the numbers, right, that the home and away thing has flipped. So we'll say, I think to go awfully of the first round robin, there was only 3 away wins in that season, right? Like in we'll say 2019, there was 8 away wins and there was 3 draws. So the win rate at home was less than 50%.
Yeah.
So, and then if you look at the league as well, I think between 2010 and 2017, I think the success rate for home teams in the league in Division 1A was 67%. Now that's come down a lot in the last 3 years, and even we'll say in this year's league campaign, I think the success rate for home teams was 53%. So there's probably that league element is fed into the round robin, as in teams are more used now to going away. They've adjusted to it like they maybe hadn't in 2018. Teams management spend an awful lot more time now on using league games to prepare for using it as a dry run to, you know, if they're playing, you know, that team in the championship in 6 weeks' time, they time everything down to, you know, the absolute nth degree, and all of that stuff is fed into, you know, I suppose even Galway, for example, like they went to Wexford in 2018, and they played them in a league semi-final, league quarter-final in 2018. So like they used that league quarter-final in 2018 as an absolute dry run to play them in the championship. Like 6 or 8 weeks later, I think that what the Galway lads did, that they used to meet in Port I don't know what they did at the weekend, but they used to meet in Port they stayed down there actually they played Wexford in a league game. It was called off with the weather. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I remember it, yeah.
And they were down the night before, and they just felt, I think they got word that maybe 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock that day that the match was off and it was snow. So I think they changed tack then for the refixture. They drove to Portlaoise, went down, went to a hotel. They just felt it was better. It was an evening fixture, so then they were playing Wexford in the round robin in 18 in the evening as well. So they did the same thing. So I don't know what they did on Sunday. So I suppose all of this stuff has, the round robin has given teams more of a chance to adapt and to get used to it. And so like I think that home advantage definitely was a factor in the free column, but I think the other side of it is Galway are well used to going to Wexford Park, which was something they would never have been used to in the past.
Yeah. And I suppose it's Westmeath next up now for Galway. Like, as you mentioned, that Carlow game back in the year where everyone finished on 5 points and they ended up getting eliminated. It is going to be important, first of all, to win the game, but to try and put up a big score, because it could come down to that again this year.
100%. And it's kind of like there's a ruthless element to this as well, Colm, where, you kind of, if you get a chance to do a number on a team, you kind of have to do it. Like, and, historically, if you look at certain counties, right, like we'd say certain counties that if they're in this position, if you look at the history of the game, we'd say even in a Munster, for example, like I was down one year at a Tipperary Kerry Munster quarter final in Thurles. I don't know, was it 99, 2000? I think it was 99, and like Tip absolutely obliterated them, and like they got a penalty in the last minute, and Declan Ryan stuck it, right? You were kind of saying if that was Clare, that'll be tapped over the bar. Like,
yeah.
Clare,
My father still talks about it, Christy, that day.
What?
That he celebrated the goal at the end. He left Thurles. My father was at the game, and he still talks about how Tip stuck the knife in.
Yeah, like I don't know, would Clare, or other counties, like even maybe Galway, it goes back to what we spoke about last about the easygoing West of Ireland mentality. And maybe that was a factor with Galway in 2019. But like you look at Kilkenny the weekend, like what was it, what did they put up, 5-23, or like there's absolutely no
mercy
holding back there. So like from a Galway perspective, and like Westmeath, that they've done a lot of good work there. They've been very consistent. Even in the league, right? I know they're playing at a lower level. They were, Division 2A champions. I suppose. So just, with Galway have no choice now. Like it's a home game. They have no choice but to absolutely look to pile as much score up, and that's with all due respect to Westmeath. They have got to go out and look to win the game first of all, and then if they can get a chance to get ahead and to log up the scores, because even you look at Dublin and Laois the weekend, like so Dublin would have been expected to win that game at home. It was never going to be an easy, like Laois beat Dublin in 2019, but like winning that game by 2 points from a Dublin perspective, this is nothing to do with Laois. Could come back to haunt Dublin in the long run. So like I suppose that is the one thing about the round robin. That's when I say it's unforgiving, lads. This is what I mean, like that there's absolutely no mercy, and there shouldn't be any mercy, because this is what it comes down to. Like Galway maybe showed Carlow a bit too much mercy in 19, and it came back to bite them for a finish.
Finally, Christy, you have another interesting weekend ahead. Wexford, Dublin and Leinster, then in Munster, of course, the Waterford Limerick game, Tip Clare. So there's no shortage of good action coming up this weekend.
And there's London Mayo on the Christy ring as well, hey.
Yeah, but you know what, Colm? Like the real pity about all of this, right, is, and I've been to Christy Ring games, I've been to Joe McDonagh games, and like there's excellent stuff going on there, and it's just like it's absolutely buried. I think this is the issue with the split season, right? I completely understand, why there needed to be a split season. I mean, of course, you have to give the clubs, more respect and more attention. But when you condense the season this much, you give no chance. And like even you'll see it in the Tailteann Cup, they're talking about promoting the Tailteann Cup and giving it the respect that it deserves and that it needs. But how can they really do it in so many ways if you have to, you look, for example, on Sunday, you've an absolutely massive game up in Ulster, Armagh, Donegal. it's not live on TV. You know, you've two huge games on TV. You've Tip Clare, you've Galway Mayo. So like, you know, if Armagh Donegal is kind of going to get put to one side, like what chance then have the, you know, the games down at the Joe McDonagh, the Christy Ring, and I suppose the Worries, the Tailteann Cup, and they're talking about building up the profile, but like, you know, you can't really do this, you know, and this goes back as well to a whole other debate. You know, they talk about the Super League in you know, that doomed
soccer
fiasco last year. But the reality of it is, lads, with the attention spans now, with the way I suppose modern supporters think, right? Like, I think the Super League, it's only a matter of time before it's going to happen, because, you know, like, people want to see Real Madrid, they want to see Man City, they want to see Liverpool. No disrespect to Burnley or Crystal Palace, like, but, you know, like, down the line, like, you know, they don't want to see those games. As in, like, not that they don't want to see them. Of course, the supporters want to watch them, but like the average, you know, supporter doesn't. And it is the same in the GAA. Like, they want to see the big games, and it's that's the balance. Like, how do you promote the other competitions? Like, and I know there's a lot of frustration out there where the Sunday game will only show so much. You know, they can only get so many cameras around. So, like, you know, but to go back, I know I've rambled on there about away from Keane's question, but yeah, Keane, look at, like, really, like Limerick on Saturday evening is where it's at. Like, it's absolutely mouth-watering stuff. You know, you have Limerick, who are absolutely back. You know, not that they were ever gone away, but, you know, whatever doubts that were there during the league have been absolutely routed now. Waterford, series second half performance the last day. So, like, but this is an absolute, you know, stonewall chance to see, you know, how good really are Waterford. Because, like, you know, both teams will still want to get points on the board, even though they've won their first game. That doesn't really mean a whole lot now. It's on to the next game. It's 6 days later. You know, both teams are still, like, Limerick have to come to Ennis. You know, they've Tip coming to Limerick. Like, Waterford have to come to Ennis. They've Cork coming to Walsh Park. You know, they're still tough games. So, from a Clare Tip perspective, like, that game is absolutely massive as well, because, like, as I said already, Tip can't afford to lose it. Clare, you can't afford to lose your first game. So, like, and, you know, from a Clare perspective, it's never been easy to go down to Thurles. When Clare beat Tip and Thurles in 2018, it's the first time they've beaten them down during 8 or 9 decades. So, you know, that doesn't happen often. Clare have got to go back down again now. They're playing a Tip team that are hurting from the defeat at the weekend. You know, and then, you know, you look in Leinster again, like that Dublin Wexford game on Saturday night is another massive game. You know, especially with, you know, Wexford having drawn their first game. Like, if they only get, you know, they're looking to get 3 points out of their first 2 home games. You know, if they get if they have 1 point coming out of Wexford Park on Saturday evening, you could say they're in trouble as well, especially with Galway and Kilkenny to come. So, yeah, look at that. It's massive. And we spoke about it last week, Cian. It's brilliant. But, like, you could have effectively have a scenario.
Someone's
on
out.
Sunday for Tip. It's the 24th of April. And effectively could be gone out of the championship. Like, I just don't. I just can't get my head around that. I don't think the balance is right.
Because Galway will rejoice like never before. Galway are the All-Ireland champions. They have now in Galway got new